It's the Art of Action Figures, checking in on the big happy Buu family here that's about to get just a tiny bit bigger, thanks to a relatively new customizer on the third-party scene that's made a big splash. Tonsen Art Toys already really impressed this year with their Buu Tanks accessory kit for SHF Super Buu. The sculpt and quality of the accessories is just phenomenal. I am a huge Buu Saga fan, my favorite art style in Dragon Ball, and I just love all of the wacky characters and transformations that come out of it. I love the tournament arc, I love the high school Gohan arc, all of it. And Tamashii has pretty much said, too bad, to fans of the Buu Saga for the next, I don't know how many years. Thankfully, we have the good people over at Tonsen Art Toys. Today, we are talking about the Adolescent Malevolence version A, aka Kid Buu with anime colors, Pure Buu, Evil Buu, Pure Evil Buu, whatever you want to call him. If you saw my most wanted Dragon Ball SHFiguarts, this was my number one on my bucket list, which is if the line were to end, what would be the last 10 or so figures that they would need to make for it to feel more complete. Pretty astonishing that Tamashii has not made this figure. A couple of weeks ago, I made a video talking about the direction the SHF Dragon Ball line is heading and how it just really isn't exciting me right now with all of the 2.0 Goku and Vegeta reuse. I don't understand what Tamashii thinks they're doing by icing out the Buu Saga in particular. It's the longest running part of the series. It has some of the most iconic designs from the series, but Tonsen's here to answer the call. How do they do? Well, I've seen some people getting this figure in hand with a couple of problems. There are definitely some mechanical things to work through. We're going to go through it in real time here. This is him fresh out of the box. We're going to work out all the kinks as well as I can, help people calibrate their expectations, because I've seen a lot of, oh my gosh, what a disaster. Look, like I said in that previous video, this is my most anticipated figure of the year, and unless it turns to dust immediately in my hands, it's definitely going to be a strong contender for top figures of the year list, which means I've got some tolerance for mechanical issues from Tonsen so far. I think there's enough to work with here to make this a really, really good figure. Let's go ahead and put him back in the box, pretend I'm unboxing him, and we'll get on with a regular order of business for reviews. The figure comes in a brown shipper box, which is kind of an underrated hero of this release, as I ordered it from AliExpress, and they are not known for the most robust packaging, let's just say. Pretty much everything I've ordered from there has come smashed or torn to some extent. This shipper box is honestly in surprisingly good shape. It's just got a little bit of a crinkle in the corner there, but that's incredible compared to what I normally see. And the figure box on the inside is pristine and crispy and nice, so that's great. And it's a pretty good looking box, I think. It's pretty unique. It kind of borrows elements from Tamashii's SHF boxes, but takes it in a different direction with this kind of dot matrix printing, which kind of harkens back to the 1.0 box design. It has the two-tone graphic design figure photography style of the event exclusive boxes. The choice of yellow here is a little bit interesting for Buu. I don't really associate him with yellow, but on the front, ages 15 and up, warning, choking hazards, and in very, 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 very fine print, it says choking hazard, small parts, not for children under 3 years or any individuals who have a tendency to place inedible objects in their mouths. I like that. They've extended the warning to not only 3-year-olds and under, but anybody who's inclined to try to eat your figures. So generalizes the warning. Tonsen Art Toys Custom 03A, Adolescent Malevolence or Adolescent Male Violence. If you know, you know. The picture is for reference only. Please refer to the physical object. Around the bottom, dots. Up at the top, not a whole lot. On the left, Tonsen Art Toys Customs. Oh, and we got a sneaky Buu face on the side there. On the right-hand side, Key Blast. On the back, promotional images. Same as the side. And then Wiggly Torso. Snoozin' Face, which is exclusive to the version A. Version B has the eyelid, tongue sticking out expression instead. We also have the Key Blast, which is different between both versions. The Wiggly Torso is common. The hands, I'm not sure if the pairs are the same, but the styles are different. The anime has Kid Buu with more human style hands, and the manga has like more of a thumb and unifinger mitten type hand. Here we've got angry, happy, neutral, big angry, and big happy, showing the range of motion in the shoulders. Looks pretty cool. Again, picture for reference only, refer to actual physical object. Adolescent male violence. Warning, choking hazard. That's the whole same deal here and here. And then right here, we've got a funny little translation that I wanted to read. This product is not a toy, only for adult collection. Display. Please do not put the small parts in the entrance. Avoid playing with chill, dren, and pay attention to the possibility, the sharp part of existence. Wow, that got deep for a second there. Okay, of course, we are going to take a look at how Kid Buu pairs with the rest of your Majin Buu family. The figure I am also interested in comparing him to is the Premium Bandai Mecha Frieza, who I think is kind of a comparable product with the alternate torso, similar form factor and size. We'll talk about the differences in quality and what you can do about it, which for third party is for Bandai, you do have a couple of options, which is nice, and why it's always better to buy official figures, but when they don't make the figure you want, Tamashii, just get on some of the Buu Saga characters. But in the meantime, very happy that Buu Saga fans are getting some food from third party. You can see the box is 3/4 of an inch shorter, 1/4 an inch deeper, and about the same width, maybe just a fraction wider. So let's go ahead and take him out of the box. If you're new here, welcome. This is the Art of Action Figures, where we talk about action figures as art. And if you're not new, welcome back. I've got trusty hobby knife here. I've already used it to slice the tape, and I'm just going to stick the blade carefully under the flap, push towards the back of the box, pop out the flap, and you get a nice clean, no creases from jamming your finger under the flap. Can't have creased cardboard in here. And go ahead and slide him out. He comes with 2 trays worth of accessories. And this immediately is one kind of point of differentiation for this figure from, I think, what you would normally get with Tamashii. Figure does cost around $80 US, which is pretty comparable to what Mecha Frieza costs. Just in terms of accessories, the difference in price and value is a pretty clear win for the third party here. Bandai, you would pay about the same amount for maybe 2/3 of the accessories. This also comes with a little bag with a couple more replacement hands. I'm not really sure what these are. Figure that out as we go. I'm going to close a little hobby knife here. Just do a quick rundown of the accessories. We'll look at all of them in more detail later, but Kid Buu version A comes with 6 interchangeable heads, 1 with a neutral face, angry gritting teeth face, maniacal laughing face, exclusive to version A, sleeping and drooling face. That's fantastic. I love this. Kind of goofy teasing face, and the biggest angry mouth face I've ever seen is Wiggly Torso, which is awesome. I've been so excited to have this type of accessory. The Frieza sliced in half accessory is pretty cool too, but this, I don't know. I just love Majin Buu. He's so fun. fists by default, then in tray number 2, we've got a pair of flat palm hands, a pair of pointing finger hands, a pair of open splayed finger hands, a pair of open clenched finger hands, another open, I think this is a Key Blast specific hand that has like some kind of ball peg on it. We have like a pointing one finger down sort of hand, and then in this little plastic bag, another pair of like finger gesturing hands. So I don't really know what the difference between this one and this one is, other than you don't get a left in the tray. So I don't know. We'll figure that out. And then you have a key ball with some zigzag surrounding effects. It is purple. It's enough ado. Let's go ahead and break him out of the tray. Excellent. Out of the box. But we do have some mechanical problems, but don't worry, we can address them. Most of them are related to joints that are too tight. I think it's a little bit easier to work with joints that are too tight than joints that are too loose. It's kind of like getting a haircut. You can always take more hair away, but once it gets too short, it's hard to put hair back. The biggest problem area that I've found so far is the shoulders, which are just extremely tight. Listen to this. I'm not going to do this too many times though. That's barely moving. That, oh, you hear that popping? That's plastic twisting and skipping into place. Don't do that with your own figure. If you hear that sound, stop what you're doing, and we're going to take some steps to go ahead and heal that up. But before we do that, let's just take this sculpt in. This is excellent. A little bit on the wobbly side with the lower body. I'm not sure whether it's the knees. I think it might be the knees. All right, when your joints are too tight, first thing I usually do is reach for the silicone oil. I've got this off Amazon. It comes with a syringe, so you can get right into those little problem areas. And so right away, I am gonna apply some of this to the shoulders and see how much of a difference we can make just with that. Other options, you can try heat. I usually don't find heat to be that helpful for import figures because they use harder plastics for their joints. It can help with domestic figures sometimes because they have softer joints. This arm is pretty good. I think this one we might be getting away with oil. The other one we might have to resort to sanding down the joint. I'm trying to look in there to see precisely what type of joint we're dealing with. This is also a problem. If you had the first edition Boy from the Future trunks, you know all about this problem. Don't want to put too much, but a little bit goes a long way. Oh. Okay. We might not have to sand. That is moving pretty good. I've got a little cloth here. I'm just going to wipe any excess oil away. It's got a little squeak to it. It's not a scary squeak. It's a pretty tiny socket where the ball goes in. I don't know why this one says L. I don't think it really matters. These seem to be symmetric parts, but here you can see down in there is where the drop of oil needs to get. And I think you're going to have a hard time doing that without a tip like this that can really be positioned right at that socket before you squeeze any. If the bicep assembly pops off like this, the best way I find to reattach these is to put the arms up in a T-pose. Sometimes it helps if you rotate the shoulder up like this. And this just gives you some resistance to push against instead of like trying to push up, which just kind of pushes the shoulder and moves it. You want to also consider having the arm on properly. And with that, you can just line everything up, push it in until you hear the click, and then you should be good to go. All right, we're moving pretty good now. I'm just going to take some parts off to get as much room here as we can. So the first joint that we put oil was the sort of swivel assembly for the shoulder that just allows you to move the arm like this. But then we need to also put some oil on the part that, the butterfly part that's like embedded down, and that joint lives down there. And so we need to get the oil, the tip of our oil applicator pointing down. The upper torso is meant to come off, and that actually works pretty easily. And this way I can demonstrate what's going on in the internals here. So the first joint that we targeted is here, and the second one that we were targeting is here. So we need to hit that socket in there, and that's why this syringe is just so helpful, is you really need to get it into those crevices. If you don't have that, I really don't know how you would fix this without taking the whole thing apart. We're starting to get the promised butterfly movement now. Less than a drop at a time. It still tends to leak as you move the joints. And so I just like to have this cloth on hand, always wiping up any shiny spots that I see on the figure. Oh yeah. And see, shiny spot, cloth. We need to tackle these elbow joints. They're a little stiff, and that's another thing that can cause the shoulder to pop out. If those elbows are too stiff and you try to move them, it might flex the little peg that goes in for the bicep. Instead, you want to get both the upper and lower one here. And if you don't have any of this synthetic lubricant, silicone oil, plastic safe oil, I wouldn't, honestly, I would not collect import figures without it. It saved probably more than 20 figures in my collection from overly tight joints. Last place I want to address is the hip swivel. And to do that, I think it helps to kind of rotate the hips into this weird position, but that gives you an opening here to feed this down into the swivel joint. All right, that ought to do it. A little bit squeaky still, but so much better. And actually that allowed us to pop it off, and that's good because now I can go in and get all the excess and actually really just specifically target that swivel joint. So pretty much just need a little oil on this socket here and you're good to go. Let's just dab a little bit directly in there while we got it, and that'll sink right in. Pop that leg back on. That's beautiful. Bringing Buu up close. Let's take a look at this face. I think Tonsen has really got probably the best faces of any third party out there right now. The printing and the sculpt is just impeccable. They're also responsible for this beauty. And bringing us pretty much the first on-model Vegeta head sculpts ever. Tamashii seems to have finally gotten their act together with the upcoming Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta. That one looks really good. But before that, man, they have all been like pretty stinky. 24,000 Namek one is good, but that's early Z art. And man, this Tonsen head kit, both this and the Majin Vegeta kit. Important to me that the figure's face look like the character, and I wish Tamashii did a better job with their main characters sometimes. Again, saying it for Kid Buu, like, just spot on. Like the little nose scrunch, but no nose. Just the structure of the face, it's got this very specific sort of Dragon Ball plane right here, kind of along the cheek. This little triangle plane down here, the jawline, the side of the head, the brow is really important. He's got the little ear holes like Frieza. Each of his little vents is painted with a black spot. Since I just spent 30 minutes applying oil to this figure, I'm probably not going to be able to tell you which parts were shiny out of the box, but I mean, his back looks a little shiny to me. Vents painted all the way around the collar, chest, arms, shoulders, and then all down the spine here. They look really good. I think, oops, how many times is this going to happen during the review? You can go ahead and count if you want. Let me know. We had all kinds of very scary sounding tight joints out of the box, but after fixing that, I'll say that the quality on the figure feels pretty good. It's not quite Super Buu SHF level, which is one of the best feeling figures that they have made. It's more along the lines of like a budget release like the Superhero Vegeta. And even it's got some of the same sound effects. Density of the plastics feels more like the SHFiguarts $35 kind of SKUs than the $60 or $80 SKUs. There is a little bit of grittiness, and I don't know if that's like some kind of overcoat that they've applied, or again, if that's just the way the materials come out of the mold. Now going down, I know the M was not painted in the prototypes, but they did paint it on the final product, which is great. The gold, obviously, for these wristbands, and then back behind the M on the belt piece, it is attached to the waist and just painted on. It's not a separate loose floating belt like on Super Buu. And then the pants, sort of eggshell color. And then the boot cuffs, same kind of gold paint as the armbands. And finally, he has some little brown shoes down here with brown joint in the foot there. I really like these little wrinkles right here in the collarbone area. It gives some sort of softness to the sculpt, a little fleshiness. We're just going to be wiping him off this entire review, but that's okay. In summation, I am pretty darn happy with how this looks, and I'm really happy we were able to sort out the mechanical stuff, and I'm just looking forward to the rest of the review, so let's get on with some comparisons. For your size comparisons, here we have Kid Buu with the SHF Superhero Vegeta with the Tonsen Art Toys Super Saiyan Vegeta head sculpt, and the Kong or Beast Deities Super Saiyan 3 Goku, which is just a little bit taller than SHF Goku, but pretty close in height, so you can get an idea for the scale on Kid Buu here. He's maybe a little bit oversized, but I'd rather they pack in articulation and make him a little bit bigger than he should be. And I think overall proportions look really good. Unlike when Tamashii scales up their small figures, they did not give him a gigantic head. Compared to smaller characters from Tamashii like Mecha Frieza or Fourth Form Frieza, I think this is right on the money. He's a little bit taller, but I mean, it's a very marginal amount. His shoulders are a little bit taller, but overall height of the figure is actually a little shorter, because they didn't give him a gigantic head. So, good for Tonsen. Really wish Tamashii would take that lesson away here. And as far as the sort of like value comparison between these two figures, with Mecha Frieza, you won't get this from video, but it has a higher quality feel in hand. The plastic is smoother, the joints move fluidly, the joints weren't trying to tear each other apart coming out of the package, so that is one sort of quality jump that you get with the official line. Paint on Mecha Frieza is also, just given the costume, a level above what's here on Kid Buu. It's pretty plain, just the little accents on the belt, boots, and gloves, and then the little vents. And that's pretty much it as far as paint. I don't need figures to have paint all over them. I know some people really want shading, and I think for animated characters, they just look better and more like the animation when they are not shaded in that way. Frieza has all these little buttons and vents and pads and rivets all over him that put just the complexity of this character design above that of Kid Buu. So you've got a higher quality hand feel, very polished execution of a complex design, a pretty similar array of accessories, but definitely less. With Mecha Frieza, we've got 4 heads and 4 pairs of hands. Both figures have alternate sort of special effect torso. Kid Buu does come with more in each category of accessories. 6 heads, 7 pairs of hands, and a Ki Blast effect. Mecha Frieza, beautifully engineered figure, really smooth and solid in hand right out of the box. An intricate design executed beautifully. Bandai customer service, whereas with third party, you can try contacting the store which you've purchased third-party products from, may or may not do anything for you. Like if you get this figure and he's got 2 left hands, what do? That does happen. There's always a factory assembly error rate of some kind. Bandai, you can reach out to an official customer service line, and I will say they will not send that part quickly, but you will eventually get a replacement part, which has been my experience. Third party, you can try reaching out to the seller or the store. It's going to be hit or miss depending on the store and how much stock they have of the figure and spare parts for it. Some drawbacks for Mecha Frieza: they gave him a weird big head, just lower on the accessory count, 4 heads instead of 6, 4 pairs of hands instead of 7 pairs of hands, and no Ki Blast. He does come with a display stand, but it's weirdly short and not that useful. That just gives you an idea of kind of what the value of like $80 looks like, and I think these are comparable to each other. For 2 figures that cost about the same price, the value is really there for both. And this gives you an idea of both the size of Kid Buu relative to Super Buu, but also the color palette. The skin is definitely different. The Super Buu has more of a bubblegum pink, and Kid Buu here has a little bit fleshier, some orangish red tones in there. The gold is pretty close match. The boots, shoe part is definitely a different brown as well. He matches a little bit more closely to the event exclusive Majin Buu here, who had a little bit more of that bubblegum pink skin tone on the original release, I think. But yeah, give you an idea of their size relative to each other. And what a difference 30 years makes. Here's my original Super Battle Collection Kid Buu. That's amazing. This is part of the fun for me, for sure, seeing just how much progress figure designers have made in the 30 years since the 3 POA, 5 POA figures. And look, this one's arm comes off too. It was one of the better Super Battle Collection figures. Next to Tonsen, he kind of looks like a weird old man. 1996. let's go over Kid Buu's articulation. The head is on a dumbbell joint going into the neck, and then a ball joint going into the torso, and all together looks up 30 degrees, even a little less looking down. Tilt to the side, not a ton, but nice fluid motion all the way around thanks to the ball joints design, and I like that a whole lot. Could do with a little bit more range though. 3.0 style shoulder with a ball joint going into a socket that goes down into another socket with another ball joint. All of that combined, you get your swivel on that ball, you get your hinge all the way up past a T. Arm pops off. It didn't ruin Boy from the Future trunks for me, and it's not going to ruin this figure, but I know some people really didn't like that. That inner ball joint going down acts like a butterfly joint, which allows you to bring the arms way out in front, probably even more than this if I work with it a minute. Yep, crosses his forearms, which is excellent range. Back, just inside, straight back, so he does get a little bit of reverse butterfly there. A pose, no problem. As this figure is being developed, as well as the future trunks, Tonsen has shown pictures of how they cut away the collarbone here and just let the shoulder butterfly fill in the sculpt. Pretty interesting. But it does give you a nice round range of butterfly motion there. Yeah, good. I like a good butterfly joint, and these work really well. Bicep swivels, double hinged elbows, bend 135 or so. Swivel on his wristband. Wrists, what did they do for these? They're just, oh, interesting, a dumbbell joint for the wrists. You don't see that too often. Normally Figuarts does their swivel hinge swivel thing. Kind of works better, so good for them. Yeah, some really cool little improvements here. The torso, ball peg going down from the chest to the abdomen, another ball peg going down from this abdomen to this like upper waist, lower abdomen piece, and then another ball joint going down from that piece into the waist. Lean pretty far back, 45 degrees, tilting forward. Really good range there. Looks pretty gappy at the back, but I prefer just the range. And then again, ball joints, just nice and fluid. This is something I saw 86 reviews posted one about the 1.0 Super Saiyan Vegeta, and I think the thumbnail had some clickbait like better than 2.0 question mark, and for me that holds sometimes, and part of it comes down to just the 1.0 had more ball joints and fewer hinges. 2.0 added hinges at the butterfly joint, the torso joint, and the hips. The thing about hinges is they only open and close. Ball joints move all around, and so it's just a lot more fun and fluid to pose figures that can get the range out of ball joints. I think these wouldn't be bad things for the official line to adopt. And that's the great thing about third party, is they are also enabling Tamashii to improve by taking the development risk, developing this new way of doing the wrists, the torso, cutting away the collar, things like that. And Tamashii can straight up take that. Some people are a little bit uncomfortable with third party, but for me, it is complementary to the main line and benefits them directly more than it subtracts sales. Ball joints in the torso, let them tilt to the side a whole bunch too. Awesome. I just love how hyper posable the like bubblegum character Majin Buu is. very, very fun. The hips are kind of a 3.0 style as well. Not the most attractive thigh cut if you don't position it just right. I think if you get it lined up kind of like this, it looks pretty good. But yeah, if you move it out to the side, it does that Tamashi thigh scoop thing, which nobody really likes. I think the thigh swivel does kind of need to be positioned to allow the hip to get the full almost 90 degrees forward, and then you can compensate that because there's a boot swivel. He doesn't kick back very much. He does have a little bit of a pants sculpt to the waist, but if you just kick a little to the side, he can do pretty much a front and back split with just a little help from the knees. And kicking to the side, similar deal. If you just go straight at it, these thigh cuts might run into the waist, but if you swivel him a little, he can very easily get the 180 side split. Torso, a little floppy. That connection at the top there is a little loose, and it's partly because it needs to be swappable, and partly because I got too much oil in here. We're going to try to clear some of this out. Okay, that's a bit stronger. The knees, again, not the most attractive design from the back. You might think they don't work too well, but this, for whatever reason, the alignment on the left knee was a little off compared to the right. So the right gets a full 90 degrees. Left leg, the wrinkles crash into each other, and I just kind of had to twist it a little and give it a little encouragement to slide past itself and eventually get it to 90. Center of gravity is low enough that he's a pretty stable figure still. The ankles, the lower leg also has a boot swivel, and then the ankles on swivel hinge swivel style joint goes down just a touch. Toe joint can help point the toe a little bit more. Up very, very little, almost nothing, but the toe joint can also, again, give you a flat surface. Toe joint has a metal pin. Ankle swivel here, good 45, we'll give him that. Feet flat on the floor, widest stance about here. And that's it for his articulation. And head swap to the sleeping face. This is exclusive to version A, as I mentioned. Drool coming out of the mouth that's painted on there. Looks really clean. The mouth is a greenish color. I think that's the color of Buu's tongue. I love this expression. I think this is a really nice accessory. And let's go ahead and see how easy it is to swap heads. I've seen some people have problems with neck peg coming out with the head. This one stays in all right for me. Give it a smush on. Oh, there we go. Takes a little bit of force, but not scary amounts. Get him kind of like hunched over with his arms hanging down like he's sleeping. Easy to swap. Looks really good. Let's try swapping the hands. To do that, just pull existing hand off the dumbbell joint. Easy enough. And line it up. Give it a little push. Hands are pretty soft, so it just kind of squishes on there. Key Blast comes in 3 pieces. It's this central ball and 2 jagged, spiky pieces with little arms. The arms connect into the ball, and it does seem like they are keyed to go a certain way. It comes with a hand with a ball peg, and I think it's easiest to hold the hand kind of like this and push it in this way so that you're not pushing fingers, which are a thin place, and they're likely to just like go like that and squish. I'm going to do it off camera because it is a little bit of a tight fit. And pegs in just like that. Looks pretty good. All the hands have black fingernails, I forgot to mention. I do recommend attaching the hand to the wrist joint before attaching the blast spikes. You just want to avoid applying pressure when this little peg is plugged in, because it is a hard plastic that feels like it could snap if you slip. In addition to its intended purpose, you can also use parts of the Key Blast as sort of impact effects. Tonsen has done a pretty incredible job with the articulation setup, and the accessory spread is like one of the most complete as far as SHF Dragon Ball figures. There are a couple of holes left open for Bandai, though, if they want to think about things like something to complete this effect a little bit more. I've seen people take the boot off. I don't want to risk it myself here. If you take the boot off, you can put it poking out of the ground further ahead of him, but it'd be cool if, I don't know, there was maybe a ground piece that you could put multiple holes and like maybe some impact coming out of him to show, because he like kicks in a row like that. That would be cool. Another awesome expression here. This wild, gigantic shouting face. Looks really, really cleanly painted. 4 tones of paint: green, darker green, black, and then white for the teeth. Not only does Tonsen do the most on-model heads, they are also doing the most fun facial expressions pulled straight from the source material. And while Tonsen Kid Buu comes with some awesome facial expressions, one that isn't included is the specific whooping, beating his chest face. As you can see, if you really push the hip articulation, it does tend to try to split at the waist there. But if you put things back, it usually goes back together. I think worst case, you could glue this front and back waist piece together. I did see a little bit of black rubbing off on the abdomen from the belt, so something to watch out for. Not the most essential when I think about Kid Buu, but he does not come with any sweet treats like his big brother and his mom. He has this awesome, silly, wiggly torso effect, and does not come with a display stand, which is easily remedied, but also a little bit silly. And the giggling, laughing face does sit noticeably lower on the neck. It's so noticeable that I think it may be intentionally that way. It's pulled straight from the drawing where he's doing his wiggly torso, and his neck is scrunched up in that drawing, and I think it's meant to kind of look like he's shrugging his shoulders and laughing, and so you can do stuff like this with it as well, and I think if you use it the way it's meant to be used, it works really well. It's not going to be kind of an all-purpose head. Yeah, it looks a little odd in a neutral pose just because it does sit lower on the neck. I think that's intentional, and it's meant for kind of specific gestures. And while he's all kinds of bendy in almost every point of articulation, Like the Droideka before him this year, he is not going to bring his legs up over his shoulders and curl into a ball. We just don't have the technology for that, I think. But this is impressively close, I will say. He also does not come with any stretched, bendy wire limbs. Not only in vogue with Jada Toys' Dalsim here, but Tamashii has also worked on that for the One Piece line, so could be an accessory of interest here. Again, amazing alternate heads. They do all have the antenna, or laku, if you will, pointing off to the side in all the same direction, so he's not going to be doing any candy beams or tail whip. And you're not going to have Goku grabbing him by the antenna and biting it or anything like that. Finally, some good food for Buu Saga fans to sink their teeth into. Honestly, this is far from a perfect figure. It is not very hand-friendly. It takes a lot of TLC to get it to a place where all of the joints work, and even still is pretty rough around the edges and requires some patience, but I've had a lot of fun with it, and I have a lot of patience for figures that clearly demonstrate how much design effort and thought was behind them, and value is packed into it. And I know I'm not the only Figuarts collector hoping this is a wake-up call for Tamashii, demonstrating just how hungry collectors are for the important main characters that they have neglected to make for years. Figures that demonstrate design effort, provide value in the accessories, and don't skimp out on facial expressions like a simple smirking face for like a core cast character. And even though they're making characters I do ultimately want, the figures are good and I enjoy them, it's starting to get really stale. They need to make characters from across the franchise, and they need to update important characters with modern engineering. Other lines are getting it all across the board. Dragon Ball should be too. This has been the Art of Action Figures, looking at Tonsen Art Toys Adolescent Malevolence version A, Kid Buu with the anime color scheme. I hope you found it helpful, informative, and enjoyable. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.